Termed the toughest budget since democracy, it paints a picture of an economy battling several headwinds. Economic growth is expected to remain below 1%. Government finances are under pressure on the back of the weak economic growth, low revenue collection, and rising debt levels. There are more demands leveled against the limited available resources. The government says debt will increase over the medium term and that the increasing borrowing is not for building infrastructure but to fund operations. Debt servicing costs are growing fast. The government says to halt fiscal deterioration, it will strive to restrain spending while pushing for faster economic growth. Electricity shortages are expected to constrain growth over the next few years.
Government will, in quotes, do whatever it takes, unquote, to ensure a stable electricity supply. As I said, it is our number one task. We have allocated 230 billion rand over the next 10 years to achieve the restructuring of the electricity sector.
The troubled state-owned companies continue to put pressure on government finances. Eskom relies on government support to operate. The troubled power utility continues to receive financial assistance, including 105 billion rand in financial years 2019, 2020 to 2021. Treasury says this is conditional to accountability and addressing inefficiencies. Government has set aside 16.4 billion rand over the medium term for SAA to repay guaranteed debt and cover debt servicing costs. Government says it's assessing its appetite to continue ownership of SA Express, which is now under involuntary business rescue. 576 million rand is allocated to Denel for this financial year to implement the turnaround plan. SABC will receive the remaining 1.1 billion rand by the end of next month. This tops the 2.1 billion rand earlier received by the public broadcaster. The risks to South Africa's credit rating have become more pronounced over the past year. Further downgrades of the credit rating could lead to higher borrowing costs.
If they downgrade us, the implications are huge. They will affect all of us. The borrowing costs are going to be high, not only for government, but also for companies that are interested in expanding their business activities.
Analysts say South Africa needs to speedily implement structural reforms, address policy uncertainty, and ensure stable electricity supply.
I think the most important one now is around electricity. So they reiterated again what came out of SONA, and they said, you know what, when it comes to the electricity sector, we're going to have to try to get electricity from sort of private outside of Eskom to get more generation. If they concentrate on that, I mean, they use the word urgent, and I think that's what they're going to have to concentrate on right now. And then the other structural reforms that came out from SONA, they're going to have to put in place, but the immediate one is what's going on with electricity.
The finance minister announced that the state bank announced by the president in the State of the Nation address will be a retail bank operating on commercial principles. He also says the sovereign wealth fund will be formed with target capital of 30 billion rand, and that funding could come from the proceeds of spectrum allocation, sale of non-core assets, and petroleum, gas and mineral rights royalties. Yoras Tefako Musi, SABC News, Parliament.